Okay, moving on to part three, how to coach outbound. In the last couple of parts, we've kind of framed how we're going to talk about the remainder. Now let's dive in. Let's get a bit more tactical in terms of how do we help reps get self-sufficient at each of these things. Where are we in the process? Obviously, we're right at the beginning. We're trying to create something out of nothing. Really difficult job, really hard to do well. Loads of people on your LinkedIn timeline are giving you really good advice over how to do different parts of it well. I'm more interested in kind of giving you a standard to coach reps from, so they know what to expect from you when you're evaluating one of their cold calls or reviewing one of their messages or reviewing one of their account plans. And that means three things. So we're going to look at how to build an account hypothesis, and then we're going to think about how do we turn that into good messaging, and then how do we handle objections. Because if you can do all three of those things really well, you're getting your rep quite a long way towards becoming self-sufficient, and they can develop their own know-how on top of those things and little tactical things that they do that work well for them, etc. So the first thing is, how do we build an account hypothesis? First thing, business goals. Similar to ingredient one that we spoke about before. What are these company-wide goals that this organization has at the moment? If you were sitting in the CEO and your EBs one-to-one, or your target EBs one-to-one, what do you think they'd be talking about? What would be the top of mind things for them at the moment based on what's happening in the market and what's happening in their business? And what can you find as evidence that they're the focus areas? The so what is trying to understand or hypothesize or think about, okay, well, if they're the things that this company are working towards, if they're what my EB is focused on, if they're what my that target CEO is thinking about, what friction does progression towards those goals likely mean in your category? So for the solution that you provide across people, process, and technology, if they are progressing an agenda of cost efficiency, if it is about cost savings, if it is about scalability, etc., and they're making progress there for incumbents in your market, what does that probably mean as a challenge? Is it people getting stretched? Is it technology isn't scalable? Is it processes get maybe too stretched, or the processes themselves just don't scale with the organization anymore? Like, what would you imagine is going wrong that would be a problem that you actually solve for? And then how would you address that problem? Like, how would you de-risk it? How would you make it go away? But the key thing is we're both starting and ending with business goals. So how do you solve that problem so that the company can get back on track to hit those bigger business goals that we're talking about? In terms of turning that into messaging, it kind of flows something like the below. So we're saying, okay, your business is already working towards A, shown by this thing and that thing. You're likely experiencing this as a result, which comes with this consequence, and we solve it with we solve this through the following, which gives you this cool feature or this cool thing, and that's going to put you back, which will make the problem go away, and it'll put you back on track to hit that big business goal over here. And that kind of logical flow is how you'll see emails being written, how you'll see video being sent, how you see voice notes being sent, etc. And that's kind of really like the building blocks you're looking to see in there. They'll have loads of little tactical things like per rep that they like doing, and that's completely fine, and they should continue to do that. What you're looking for is this person really speaking to this organization and leaders within this organization based on what their world probably looks and feels like right now? The important thing to call out with hypothesis-based messaging is we're not necessarily expecting to be right. Remember, this is before we've had a meeting with the organization. It's based on research only. We're trying to earn the right to get time with these people. We're trying to separate ourselves from all of the 15 different messages that person got today. And the way we're going to do that is by showing them, hey, I'm thinking about you and what your world probably feels like right now. And here's a reasonable idea about how we could help. I always use the example of like the recruiter in the inbox. Everyone, let's say if you're in AE, like everyone gets messages from recruiters all the time. They all kind of say the same thing, like it's all about rocket ship growth, OTE, world-class training, great investors, whatever it is. That recruiter who's sending that message, no doubt, like believes those things are all true. Like that's kind of totally fair. But it all just kind of sounds the same to the rep, like it just kind of goes in one ear and out the other. Whereas imagine if a recruiter popped up in your inbox, if you're in AE, tomorrow, and it said, hey, Mary, I took a moment to reflect on your profile. Based on this move you made or this choice you made, my feeling is that these kind of things are quite important to you. With that in mind, I have this role, and here's why I think it might be quite appealing. Let me know if you're interested in learning more. Like, I'm not saying Mary's going to take that meeting, but she's definitely way more likely than just hearing about OTs and rocket ship growth. And then finally, handling objections. No deal's ever been done, no good deal's ever been done without having to handle objections on the way. Like, that's just it's just a standard part of sales. They are quite scary nonetheless. The worst thing we can do is just have our knee-jerk reaction and try and tell people why they're wrong. A way better approach is to start with empathy. So regardless of what your prospect says, even if you have a great talk track as to why you're better than something, or whatever they say, I'm not the right person, it's not the right time, whatever it might be, like these things we hear all the time, at least get on the same page as your prospect first, at least soften them up a bit and make them feel heard, or else they're never going to hear you when you deliver your talk track in a minute. So I see where you're coming from. I hear that a lot. I get you. Just make them feel heard, make sure you get on the same page with them, soften them up. And then actually the hardest bit of objection handling is how can you, in a very short space of time, with maximum a couple of questions, actually understand why their objection is their objection. Asking them to explain something, asking them to illuminate something, to justify something, or just to give you a little bit of color, so that when it comes to you giving your talk track, you're going to make sure that actually lands. Every organization probably knows, anyone can read a battle card from a competitor and say, oh, they don't scale, or something like that. And if they say, hey, we're fine, we use this solution, and you just proper knee jerk, oh, well, they don't scale, your prospect doesn't want to hear that. It comes across as very salesy. If you're going to give them that talk track, you need to make sure you've earned the right and they're actually in a kind of mindset where they're potentially open to hearing you. Thank you.